So, folks, very nice to be here. This is our eighth touchdown for the Wealth Transfer Initiative. I think that today is going to be just me and Hannah. We have a lot of things to talk. Don't we, Hannah? Besides all things that we're doing with this weekly gatherings. So we're just talking before making the report here that there's so much things that we're already learning with all these conversations that we're making. Not only because we have to quite echolocate ourselves in all these profound transitional times that we're living in, but especially because we're all doing, let's say, not the right stuff, but we're doing the things that we need to do in order to make this transition palpable, touchable, meaningful for everyone on the planet, right? So, and regarding the concept of wealth, well, we have a lot of work to do on this. We know this because the industrial society, as we know, is still living, really living in between us. This industrial society where we turn out to be products of it, this technological industrial society where we turn out to be products of it as a species that we as a species created. So it's not a little task. So it's a hard, a very hard, very challenging, in my at least in my perspective, challenging. Let's say a proposal that we have here. So how do we reframe wealth, right? How do we reframe wealth in a life-centric way? Wow, this should be something easy, right? But it's not. So we're really conditioned by the way that we establish the ethos of the societies that we are worldwide, right? So this is the task. So and we already have a lot of juicy things, to to take a look at it and nurture it, render for others, understanding that what each one of us is doing is already contributing for this, let's say, this blueprint that we're searching for, right? So today is going to be nice. If only me and Hannah is going to be here, because I know that we have a lot of things to chat about, right? So yeah, let me let's make a deep dive, Hannah. Last week I made a deep dive with Marco Zubieta from Bolivia. Wow, it's incredible. I don't know if you had the chance to view it, but it was an incredible deep dive with him, and not only with him, with Laurent Mignon from Paris that is doing awesome work with Kiko Lab to make sense of the transitional times, and it's really nice. So if you have a chance, please check it out. You're gonna love it, and I think that we're gonna have the opportunity here to really make a deep dive with you. It's going to be nice to know all about the works that you're doing, your actual impressions of what we're doing here with these weekly gatherings, and that's it. Let's kick this off. So
Good morning. I'm glad I could be here. Um, like everyone, it's such busy times and really overwhelming. And now that we can have meetings with everybody all around the world all the time, I do. It sounds um, but yeah, I've been part of a lot of different conversations exploring this topic from kind of different angles as well. And I've only been able to participate in this call a few times, so still really trying to grok everything that's going on and the vision of it. And I think it's really beautiful, and I think it's really powerful, the tools, especially that Hugo brings with Seven Vortex, and being able to map out the relationships. And I think that's what's so overlooked. And I mean, thinking in the wealth conversation, that if people could just really see their relationships, and I mean, it would almost be interesting to map out on Seven Vortex, like people and their wealth, if we're just talking financial wealth, because I think that's what this conversation is about, is realizing how many different types of wealth there is. But if we're just looking at financial wealth, I mean, it would be insane, like how big some people's bubbles are compared to others, and like the lines, and where does that money go. And with my work with Abundant Earth Foundation, I mean, that's why we chose that name, is to try to make people realize this is such an abundant earth, and that's how it is naturally, and that humans are the only ones that take so much more than they give back. And so it's our responsibility to try to get that back into balance. And I think that everybody was hoping we'd have till 2030, which still is like not far at all in the drop of time. But we're seeing ecosystem collapsing now. And I mean, that's got to be the biggest wake up call to people, to just do a radical shift. But people don't know how to do a radical shift until, yep, there we are. Thank you. Until there is some kind of a roadmap, a blueprint, as you're trying to get to right here. And so, yeah, what we're trying to do with Abundant Earth Foundation is support projects that are creating right livelihoods for people through regenerating the planet. And so we're getting real involved, and one looking at what are the, as Buckminster Fuller says, the trim tabs. Where can we put some energy that will then help move? The trim tab is the little piece on the rudder. So it moves the rudder, then the rudder moves, I think, even still other pieces, and then the boat. And so if we can just do that tiny little bit there to help protect our oceans and save the coral reefs and bring back the kelp forests, and then that will radiate out to health in all of the oceans and help rebalance the climate system, and so we try to support very grassroots projects and have had great influence around the world already, just in our first 3 years, by really trying to help train the trainers and teach the teachers, especially in permaculture and regenerative ag, so that then they go teach their community how they can create enough food for their family and then have extra to sell and extra to make value-added products that then can raise their families out of poverty, and especially focusing on women and youth and empowering them. And so it's just to really see also with the money that is out there and that we do have to distribute to others. Let's see, you can maybe go to like our projects page, and that might be something kind of interesting to look at. Yeah. Just to kind of show a few of the different things that we are trying to support, yeah, really trying to see Farmers is an excellent example. They're working to train the trainers in Uganda, and especially with COVID as a big response to famine that was happening. And a lot of these, they established grandmother gardens to teach, to go and install permaculture gardens for grandmothers who often are taking care of like 10 to 15 orphans that usually kids they're not even related to, but their parents have died and these kids are starving. And so these old women bring them in. And so we're creating gardens that then have a surplus, so they're able to sell at farmers markets. And it's just been so beautiful. And like these gardens cost $80 each, but then could radically change so many people's lives. And so that's just it, trying to grow food to change the world. And So I really appreciate these conversations that are coming back to life-centric. And that's not happening enough of the conversations, even the ones about regeneration. We're still thinking it's sort of something we can come and apply on the planet. Oh, we need to come do this and help replant the trees and do all this. And it's like, well, no, we actually need to step back and really look at how nature does things. And what is, I'm like, wait, there's MP. Okay, you have a video guy. What is the answer that nature would have, and how can we emulate that? And that's where real wealth comes from, is when we tie into 4.3 billion years of trial and error by nature. So yeah, these are some of the beautiful pictures of the people who have been helped by these grassroots projects. And MP Marie Pierre is the woman there and sitting in the middle of all of those beautiful people. And
It would be nice. It would be nice, Hannah, if you invite her, if she has the time to be here with us, because I met her in one of those crazy network encounters of the global regenerative movement. I don't know the name.
the
Yeah,
GRC.
GRC. Yeah,
Oh, wonderful. I didn't know you attended one of those.
yeah,
Fabulous.
yes. It was
Well,
really
yeah, so
great.
this is a sample of like one of her urban little gardens that, she puts out in a traffic circle. And even though that's not edible, it's pollinating and it's slowing down traffic and it's bringing nature back to the cities. And so, yeah, I will see if MP can join us. She's very busy with a food forest program in Vancouver in Canada. And so, I mean, that's another great example of the wealth differentiation. Vancouver has extremely wealthy people and then such an extreme homeless problem. And so here they are just teaching. In fact, we have a contest that we're running right now on tiny gardens. And so here's people, they're showing kids about how you can grow food anywhere in like a burlap sack or in water bottles, even old shoes. Yeah, here's great examples of that. And so we're really trying to also look like here in America, even though we have so much wealth, there's so many people that are still food insecure, that still go to bed hungry, that don't get the nutrition from their food because of really designed racism and keeping healthy, affordable food from people. And so it's like, well, here on your porch, even if you're living in an apartment, you can grow some food. And so, yeah, we actually have like a $300 prize that we're offering just to get people to go try it and send in their photos and get their friends, be like, hey, I got a tiny garden. Um, and so, yeah, looking at how just little bits of support can really go a long way. So anyways, I'll open it up for more of a conversation now, but that's yeah, there's really a lot on the refarmers.org. Oh, the last point I wanted to make that I really appreciate that MP brings, and she has so many great perspectives, but see, this is a great picture too to show this on. She talks about scaling down. Everybody talks about, we got to scale up. We got to scale up. How can we do this large scale? Well, they went in to, I believe it was a school for the deaf in Uganda. And they did a real big garden and planted it all out and did all of this stuff with swales and working so that it wouldn't need much irrigation, got it all set up. And then all the volunteers left. And the people there didn't know how to take care of the garden, didn't have the time, and it all completely failed. And so it's like, well, what if rather than trying to always think so big, 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 and that big is best, if we scale down? And so let's just do small, manageable gardens. And then you could always have a series of them and grow one at a time. And that's a real permaculture principle, is, slow and small solutions. And I think that that's something we kind of need to be thinking about, but also in a fractile manner. How can we start small and succeed and then have that radiate out? So
And here you go. You have Mothers of Amazon, Deeper Roots. Would you like to talk a little bit about them? The Reap Center,
sure,
Sweden
yeah,
Sea
I can
Worker
just
Collective. Yeah.
yeah, I can run through some of these. These are now more the projects that we fiscal sponsor. And so that's also a big thing is, as a nonprofit, it takes a lot of work to keep your nonprofit status. And so we can then share that with others, since that's sort of one of our wealth aspects is our 501c3 status in the United States. We make that available to other projects. And so Mothers of the Amazon, a beautiful organization working very closely with tribes deep in the Amazon forest, that then had such devastating effects from the flooding, which is all tied into then, of course, the devastating fires from last year and climate change and everything. And so this vicious cycle of environmental disasters that they're facing that then mixed with COVID. And so we are still trying to raise money to help support the purchase of water filters, and then going back to help put in wells. And they lost all their crops. So going to help with agroforestry and bringing in tree um, seedlings so that they can replenish what was washed away. And so, yeah, that's one of our active campaigns that we're trying to raise money for right now. And so many problems with customs holding up the water filters. And it's like, oh my God, here's people dying, and they're trying to now charge us like extreme amounts of money just to get the filters in. And so that's been very frustrating because we know people are dying in the meantime. And so, yeah, the Mothers of the Amazon is a really beautiful group that, yeah, just this emergency relief fund that then will go into more long-term working with them on agroforestry. And that's something that we're hosting a panel on the Soil Not Oil conference in August. And we're hopefully going to have one of the chiefs from one of these tribes come to talk about their approach to agroforestry and how it ties in with nutrition and health. And there's just so many lessons to learn from the original peoples of any land. But we got to make sure, that they have the health and well-being to be able to continue on. And yeah, just such beautiful people. We're also working with a recording studio program. And so hoping to also bring down recording instruments and technology so that they can help share their music, their words, their stories, get it out to the people so that we can really see what's happening and from their voices themselves. And yeah, just such beautiful people. So that's our Mothers of the Amazon project. Deeper Roots, that's listed there, is also one of ours that we're trying to, so I like to say, crack the nut, or as you're saying, find a blueprint of what helps, what works for training the trainers and spreading the information mostly from like farmer to farmer of regenerative ag projects so that people don't have to be getting dependent on chemical ags and chemical seeds. Agricultural chemicals. Teaching them that they can be much more productive in their farming using natural products. And so we're really working, especially in East Africa, to see how we can expand that. And actually, just in the last 2 weeks, we're partnering with a philanthropist who's very interested in regenerative ag to look at how we can use Malawi in East Africa as really sort of a poster child to work at a nationwide level with regenerative ag. And so seeing how we can bring in trainers to help support the amazing teachers that are already there. How can we spread it? Bringing in the government. He's already teaching permaculture to to the military there. And so we're also working in Guatemala and other Latin American countries to better people's lives through regenerative ag practices so that they want to stay, so that there is no need to leave their families, take the dangerous trip up to try to get into the United States, to try to find a job, to try to send money back to their family. No, let's just create jobs that are regenerating the planet and creating the right livelihood for their families and nutrition so that they stay there and they're healthier and happy.
You see, Hannah. It's interesting. It's really interesting. I had obviously already looked at the platform and
Mhm.
took a look, and I think almost every project, because I'm very curious, of course.
Mhm.
And it's wonderful to see this work being spreading out all over the planet, and it's refreshing. It gives sense. It gives a lot of sense and meaning, and it nurtures the soul, right? Nurtures the soul. And you see, what I think that is really nice about this, because this is already a decentralized network, right? This is already a decentralized one. So not in the sense of this technological, let's say DAOs that people have been talking about in the last 5 or 6 years, but uh, when what is coming to me here now, as you speak, as you share your understanding, the experiences, is that we could really have a lot of currencies, let's say, not it could be crypto, okay, but a lot of cryptocurrencies related to the regenerative movements, uh,
Mhm.
related to the to make the let's say this old dollar economy, this old euro economy, transition to this currency. So, guys all over there, guys all over the planet, that has the let's say this old understanding wealth thing about having money, right? This dollar and this euro thing, they could simply put their wealth, their idle wealth, at disposal to transform this in a lot of tokens, a lot of different tokens for different micro realities in this decentralized manner. So this would be a way to transfer this old, re-signify or reframe this old wealth in terms of dollar and euro, and this really, really groundbreaking work that you guys have been doing. You see, so
Yeah.
yeah, so that what just came up, just
Mhm.
hearing you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, certainly like I'm in conversations with people with seeds, and we've helped support Earth Bank and some of their early projects to get going with their token for regenerating the planet. That was for a mangrove replanting project in northern India. But, I'm interested to see, have you seen any on the ground crypto projects that have actually really helped? Like if I go tell Maurice, hey, I'm not going to send you $1,000 that you need right now for your indigenous seed bank to get going. I'm going to send you $1,000 in this crypto coin. What is he really able to go do with that to really get his project going right now? And so I'm just curious because it's great to talk about this transition, but really, what does that tangibly give people to be doing right now? And so I'm just curious if you've seen any in play yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of initiatives that has right there this preoccupation. This is in the core of their understanding how this is meaningful in a hyper local way, and there are projects like Cambiatus that I don't know if you're aware of about.
What is it again?
The, the Cambiatus, I will share here so you can take a look, because you see, uh, people does people are moving all over around. So, and what you just said resonates with people here in Costa Rica. These are guys from local communities in Costa Rica that are implementing in a ground in the roots, very ground rooted way, cryptos. So with blockchain and everything. So here we go, new organizations for the planet regeneration, and this is Carla. Carla will be with us soon. She will be with us to talk about this, and they already have you see, they're already here in Brazil with Muda that is happening here in Rio de Janeiro, and as you see, there's Utopia
Yeah,
here too.
great.
Yeah, and we're really close to them, and but if I'm going to show you some of their communities, the first communities. So this is some of the communities. They're very root grounded communities, not only in Costa Rica but here in Brazil too, and they are very organized in this sense. So you can know in in the roadmap and what stage things are happening. So if I go here to pools or I don't know, yeah, let's go to pools. If you go here, you're gonna understand how is the community stages are happening. So onboarding, learning, co-design, test, active. You have already 600 members of a local community being part of this. So it's not something in absolute numbers that is wow, that's great, but in relative numbers, this is huge. To have folks in their local community making this happen. So
This is a
this is
complementary currency. So is that like just within kind of like a local currency that you're doing with Bitcoin?
yeah, it's a local currency too. It's a yes, it has this aspects as a complementary currency, as a local currency, but it has this, let's say, how Michelle Ballins from Future Foundation says, has this cosmo-local thing, right? Because I'm here in Brazil and I know about them, so I can be active part of this. So even not being there in the community, in the hyper-local region of it, I can be part of it. I can really invest in them by earning their crypto. So uh, by buying their crypto or by making it more visible for another community. So this is already happening. So yeah, I don't know that response what you just said, but
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, I just want to like, you know, I want to expand and start taking more donations of cryptocurrencies and trying to support people with them. I just, it's we are in this liminal state still and transitioning a little bit in the caterpillar stage. And so if I give people these cryptos, like, are they able to then translate that into the items they need to go finish their farm project? And so those are still the stages I'm waiting to see. Otherwise, it's just kind of still fantasy. But yes, we need new economic systems, and that's what this is all about. But we need ones that are really a new system rather than just saying, okay, now rather than using the dollar, we're going to use this instead, but still stay with the same systems. Like, that's not
yeah,
going to change anything.
because Hannah, it's not only a question of using a new type of currency, let's say. It's a new type of mentality. It's a new type of mindset. It's a new type of economy. Its driver are regenerative, let's say regenerative drivers, and you don't make anyone rich in the old sense of it. So no one accumulates nothing, and it's really beautiful when you see it happen. So it's powerful. And you lessen the dependency of these old currencies that are very extractive, very accumulative. When you buy anything in dollar, when you buy anything in euro, you are literally extracting from the planet, right? Because all the major industries are linked to this macroeconomy, let's say, this hyper consumerist microeconomy. So when you really, when you make this currency be a currency, this old currencies be a currency, this fiat currencies, you're incentivizing the continuation of this type of currency that its time has already come, right? It doesn't have any sense to really we incentivate the existence of this type of currency throughout the 20th century. I would say throughout the third decade of the 20th century. So I would say that that type of urgency, right? If we're talking here about climate changes, there's all sorts of climate changes going around. So of course, here in wealth transfer, we're going to make a lot of deep dives in this. We're gonna have the chance to have Carla with us, and oh, let me say this. You know the OCAST experience that you will have too.
Next week, yes.
Yes, yes. The OCAST is, I think, it's going to be linked to this wealth transfer weekly gatherings because I think it's coming up to be a nice way to map out folks that are doing what we are doing all over the planet and in a very decentralized podcasting way. So it's going to be nice. So you can hear about Carla and Cambiatus in the OCAST already. So I'm going to end this up. When we're going to end this up, I'm going to send you the link so you can hear her. You can know about the work that they're doing. So it's
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
I think that one of the most important things that the currencies can do is to help in the social consciousness of it, and to get people thinking about money in different ways, and wealth in different ways, and um, yeah, just kind of establishing this new game. A lot of people like to talk about game B. What is this next game, and what are the new rules, and what's the new end target that we're going towards? And a big part of this is, I think, shifting our mindset from being consumers. That's what people call us, at least here in the US. I assume in the rest of the United or the rest of the world, we talk about we're just consumers. We're here to consume. And it's like, no, that we can't just keep consuming. And again, it brings me back to the butterfly analogy that's being used so much right now. And if you look at the stage of a butterfly, yeah, it starts out as a caterpillar that just goes around, and all it does pretty much is eat and shit, eat and shit, eat and shit. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. And now we've gone into this liminal state where we're just kind of goo. Everything is changing. We don't know what we're going to come out of. But then after that, I assume somewhat painful, or just that amazing change inside that precious cocoon, which has, at least on the monarchs, there's little golden dots all around it. They're just so beautiful, and another perfect creation of nature. But then it finally opens up, and it's this butterfly that then its mission is to pollinate and to go around and spread life and heal and travel far distances. And and that's something that I think we really need to go to. And then in their migration, especially the monarch that migrates the furthest of any animal, I believe, it's 3 generations. And so that's also what we need to be thinking of, way ahead of the next generations, several generations. Because even the 7th generation concept, that's really like only about 200 years, depending on how many years you give to a generation. And it's like, that's not far. We need to be thinking in these terms. And the people right now that are still hoarding their wealth just have to wake up and realize that, you can't spend that on a dead planet. And unless we shift our economy from extractory principles, like the caterpillar, just thinking we can just eat and shit all the time, we've got to be creating our economies around jobs that are healing the planet. And I think every investor should look at how much life is this business going to create or save or replenish back to its natural health. Um, and that is the frame we need to be having for our economy. And that's the true wealth. It is how much are you supporting the healing of the planet, the healing of your neighbors and societies to make these shifts. And that's what we're trying to do, one project at a time, with Abundant Earth Foundation, and now looking at these larger scales with Malawi and Guatemala, but then radiating out to their neighboring countries. And it's all about, supporting people to have right livelihoods that are healing the planet. And
Yeah, in this sense, Hannah, if I may just make some observation. In last week touchdown with Marcos Ubieta and with Lauren, we're talking about infrastructures and superstructures, the new infrastructures and superstructures that need to be open source, open code, and they need to have, as TB says, formal bridges. They need to have bridges in between them, so we can really, as create this new. Let's say we are a macro organism, industrial technological organism that is extracting the resources from the planet. So we need to, yes, as a species, but we can, in this transition, we can imagine in a decentralized and distributed way, we can give birth to a lot of ecologies of things that are really talking in between them, right? Literally nurturing it, nurturing themselves in between, and accessing everything. Everything is accessible as nature, right? Nature is totally interdependent. So, in a biomimicry way, in a symbiotic way, this makes, in a life-centric way, this makes total sense. So, I think that in the end, what we're talking here, when you're talking about wealth transfer, wealth reframing, we're talking about this, giving birth to ecologies of initiatives and endeavors and projects from the hyperlocal stage, let's say, focus to the planetary one. So we can really integrate and create this macro symbiotic and biomimicro, let's say, organism that it's the counterpart of this old one that we're still in it. So if you ask me, Hannah, this is what I understand what you're doing here, right? We're trying to open ourselves. We're trying to see these conditionings of this old macro industrial technological organism that is still running in us as, let's say, softwares, mindwares, right? And conditioning our behaviors. So I think that we're doing this, literally. I think that we're really doing this. So, and we try to really grasp how we can do this in daily basis. How can we really make this happen? Because you see, it's already happening, right? The Budded Earth is doing a fantastic work. But imagine if a lot of Cambiatos, the communities around Cambiatos could talk with the Budded Earth, right? It could talk with Utopia, could talk with Sensorica, everyone talking, everyone being this, let's say, in a micro scale, doing all the things that we need to do in a regenerative way, but in a macro, wow, this new infrastructures, these new superstructures gaining life. So that's what I understand what we're doing here, right? And I think that you agree. You
yes,
totally agree with. So
what I spend all my time on, you know,
yes.
how can we be making this transition? And then using that to also, as we shift our mindset and all of this, to shift back to our connection to nature, and get off the computer and go outside and appreciate what we're trying to save, and do that for our own mental well-being. And I think that there's such a crisis in the mental health around the world right now, and especially after COVID, um, that it's like returning to nature and returning to being focused on creating life That's just what can give people purpose again. And then to actually get out there and have their nature dose, and that's just then to get people to appreciate and get back to it. And yeah, as you're saying, like, to be having these conversations with other communities around the world, I think is key. And repairing the web of life that we've torn apart. And so much of that then is about connections, and connections to people around the world, so that we, I mean, the mothers of the Amazon, I love that project, because it's like, otherwise we have no idea. Maybe we'll see a little glimpse on the news about it, but that doesn't really touch us to want to do something, or to realize that the devastation they're going through is impacting us too, because we're all citizens of this planet. That's why, yeah, the people who have the traditional wealth right now, to transfer it to these very grassroots efforts that are going to then radiate out and make this change at a global scale. This is our only chance. It is right now. And I'm trying to start this kind of campaign of all hands on deck. And even if your wealth, if you only have $5 to spare, you don't have any money to spare, but you can still contribute in many ways, or if you're a billionaire sitting on this money, all the more responsibility to spread it to these projects that are going to really make a difference, and not the ones that are coming in with the GMO seeds and just doing more devastation. We've really got to check to see what is the intention behind the projects, and what is it going to be supporting? Is it supporting life?
Yeah, you see, and I agree totally with the urgent state of mind that we have to be aware of, because uh, as we speak, there's, let's say, a 3.0 technological industrial revolution coming with this singularity technological thing, right? With robotics, and it's not that it is evil, is quite the opposite. It's brilliant, but you really have in this movement some open code and open source people thinking about it to transform it. You see, Hanna, in a social technology. And so it's not to make it in a market-driven way, where you have patents, where you have to buy it, but to really to be this infrastructure, to be this open coded, open source infrastructure that anyone can access, anyone can be part of it. So Marco Zubieta of Bolivia, as I was talking about you, he's a guy that's doing there in Bolivia, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And the Green Fab Lab Network, as they call themselves, they're not only Bolivia, they're spread through America. They have connections in Canada, they're in Europe. So it's already a global, let's say, a planetary network that is trying to raise up, make this infrastructure alive, right? So in a technological sense, in an open coded way. Uh, so it's not. What I'm saying is, we have to understand that we are a very complex species. So, in that sense, when we talk about, we're not talking here about races. We're talking about the species as a whole, and the species as a whole has to have this very sense-making conversations to understand that everything that we're doing as a species can really be conversing, can really be converging, can have this very, let's say, regenerative, planet-driven, life-centric motto going on, right? Because uh, we can do this, right? We're already doing it. We already do it, but it has to be more spread it out. Because see, I know a lot of guys that are in this. Let's say, another example. We're in the midst of this booming of a new space exploration, right? having Elon Musk with the main figure, SpaceX and things like that. So you see, he's a human being as you, right? And he's doing this with, let's say, with the best of intentions. But wow, wait a minute. What kind of mindset is behind this new space age race, let's say? What kind of mindset? Is the same kind of mindset of 500, 600 years ago to colonize, right? It's the same one. It's the same one. It's the same one to loot, right? Let's go to the moon to loot the moon, to mine the moon. Man, what you're talking about? To mine the moon?
We learned nothing for the last 500 years. It's like,
Wow. So yeah, I love this thing about space, right? I am. It's rooted in me. I'm quite of a let's say an amateur astronomer. I love to look at the stars and map this out. And but come on, come on, come on. We can do this in another way, with another mindset, right? In a decentralized manner, with new ways of understanding, not new, old new ways, right? Ancient and old new ways to be to understand the spaceship Earth, right? Let's understand that Earth itself is the biggest spaceship that we're ever going to be in, right? So what I'm just saying, Hanna, is that I think I have connections, my connections in this realm of space exploration because of my hobby as as amateur astronomers, right? And I've been talking with some folks that are too, and they are in the technological part of it, and they have the same understanding. Well, yeah, it's not healthy to have all this propaganda around the new space age, like we're still in the 60s of the last century, right? In the Cold War. It's not cold. You see, that's the thing. They're trying to make a new Cold War with China, right? Oh, this is a new Cold War now we're in. This is the space race with China, and now we are going to have the private sector in it. So the private sector will run it. That's not it. That's really not it, right? And I'm just sharing this because I understand that we can make a footprint too in what the so-called new space age, let's say, and and uh, and that's it. I think that the way to do this is from the type of work that you're doing with abundant, you and a lot of people are doing with abundant Earth, right? And the type of work that Carla and Rodolfo is doing with Cambiatus, because we really make we can try to enhance or open or enhance our awareness, right, of how the spaceship Earth is already a spaceship, right? It's already in the cosmos. It's already part of the solar system. So we can make this a very different manner, not the way that there has been doing. So forgive me. This is something that really excites
yeah,
me. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I grew up, yeah, and still fascinated by astronomy. And yeah, I had all my star charts on my wall as a kid and everything. Used to know almost all the constellations. But, and so I appreciate it too. But to me, is that really the best use of these insane amount of money right now? If we're talking about the importance of where to transfer wealth to, I would much rather be using it to save the ecosystems here, because frankly, Mars's real estate doesn't appeal to me very much. I'd much rather be here. And I'd much rather have the planet be living and functioning as it's supposed to. Um, and the people who say, oh, it doesn't matter, the planet will continue. We might die off, but the planet will continue. Well, you know what? The planet spent 4.3 billion years getting this perfect balance that we have now so quickly come in and just thrown completely out of whack. Um, that it's like we really have to check in with ourselves and see what we're doing on this planet and how we can change that. And Elon, if he put just a fraction of that money of SpaceX towards real projects, sure, the batteries and going to electric cars, but there's so many problems there. If we really dissect that and looking at the energy system as it is now, I mean, here in California, we have so many fires started from our energy lines. Now, if we plug all of our cars into it, that's not going to help. I mean, we've got to be thinking at these systems level change, because that's how the planet operates, at these relationships, all supporting each other at these systems levels. Alexander von Humboldt in 1800 was the first one to talk about human-induced climate change, because he saw in Venezuela, where people had cut down the trees, were draining the river for their monocropping of indigo and these different cash crops that couldn't even be eaten. And he's like, wow, this has turned this area into almost a desert in just a few years. This totally changed the climate. And so we just really need to check ourselves as a species of what we're doing, but to come into this with a fun attitude, and that we can have fun doing this, and we can have fun healing the planet and creating the jobs around that. And so that is my request to everybody, to put their wealth into what is creating these jobs that will create a better planet for everybody. As Buckminster Fuller says, create a world that works for all. And that's what we're trying to do on this spaceship Earth. And we can all do it, and we can all have fun doing it. That's and I mean, with Abundant Earth and on my own personal mission on this planet, I feel like it is to help others live their dream, live their purpose. And if that's doing something to heal the planet or heal societies and help other people, then I'll do everything I can to help you reach your dream. And I mean, it's so beautiful. Twice last week, I had people just say how much even just these small grants that we were able to give them changed their life completely and is helping them live their dream. And then they are helping so many people in their communities. And it's like, oh my God, that's just so beautiful. And everybody can be contributing to making that happen. Even if it's just through a donation through Abundant Earth Foundation that then we distribute out to these projects, or whatever people can do in their daily lives, especially if they have, again, all forms of wealth. And that's something to dive into in other conversations, is again, changing that consciousness and imagining the future we want. And that's something we also really work with, is helping people to articulate, what do you want the future to look like? And let's be moving towards that instead.
Yeah, we're in the top of the hour here of our eighth touchdown. Hannah, was so nice to make this deep dive with you.
Thank
And,
you.
I,
You
and,
too.
and I'm thinking here that as the OCAS experience that you're going to have, you have to give us a feedback when it's good for you to have your OCAS experience, right? And you can set up, you can be the host, you can be the temporary host, you can be the co-host, you can be the guest or the co-guest, I don't know.
I thought, am I still on Thursday with Hugo?
Yeah, Ugo said to me that you had some, you
I
had to.
thought I had a conflict, but I didn't. And so that's why I didn't reach out to you this day.
Yes, okay.
So,
For me,
okay.
it's okay. You have to talk with Fugu if it's okay
Okay.
for him. So we
Okay.
can set this new OCAST experience with you guys, and having another folks to energize the role of co-host and temporary host. I don't know if you guys are seeing yourselves as guests and co-guests. It's just a matter of you guys having some conversations about it, the setup of it, and because you might have some really interesting people, folks. You certainly have to be all the guests or the co-guests. You see, for this whole cast experience related to the Abundant Earth, I don't know. It might be people from Reformers, from Mothers of Earth. I don't know, Mothers of Amazon, but it's up to you, right? It's up to you guys. So it is in a decentralized form. And another thing that I think is going to be nice, if we feel that not everyone is going to be able to be here in the weekly gatherings, as is already happening, right? These sessions with in a two-way, in a dialogue or in a trialogue, like it happened last week, they are very nice too, because we can really deep dive in some things. We can expand some perceptions, and it will be a material for to map it out in Seven Vortex too. Because as you know, Hugo does this asynchronous in a synchronous mode too. So after it happens, so he just sees the video and maps it out. So it can happen in this way. So it's going to be nice too. So Hanna, thanks a lot of all the things that you and Abundant Earth are doing. I'm really chilled with it. It's really nice. It's really beautiful. It makes me almost cry in a happy way, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
It is, it's so exciting, and just empowering people and to live their life that they're meant to live here.
yeah, I know. And the last question that I'm going to make you, so for us to end this up, is how do you see that we can, in our weekly gatherings, how can we start making this transitional bridges, this formal transitional bridges that Tiberius from Sansarica talks about? How can we, let's say, open the codes and source in between us all the richness that we are producing, that we are making it happen on a daily basis? How do you envision that? That it's going to be important because, as I said, I'm going to start making this work with Tiberius and and Ugo to see the main contours or the main things about what we're talking here and we're making here together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I said, I'm involved in various conversations similar to this, and one of them is the what we call ReFi, the Regenerative Finance Initiative. And so just really seeing what does that even mean, regenerative finance, and then how can we do it and spread it. And part of what we're working on too is, yeah, just mapping just who's doing what in this realm, and how can we then kind of decide what relationships really need to grow. And so the work that you guys are doing really fits in with that well. And so like to kind of combine those efforts and combine some of these conversations. But then it's like, yeah, I'm tired of just having conversations. And so how do we actually move this to the ground where it's making an impact? And so some of these projects, and especially like the one in Costa Rica you showed, and the Bolivia work, it's like, well, okay, it's happening. So, it's, do we like try to direct more effort into supporting what's the mushrooms and stuff that's already popping up from the mycelium network underneath, and strengthening that mycelium network so we are all connected and sending the nutrition we need to each other? I'm also in various conversations about people trying to start like a alternative network, so that all of these meetings could be hosted somewhere that people can easily access them and go on these deep dives together. And so that could really fit into some of these things as those platforms emerge, so that more people can have access, so that they can at least listen in to hopefully trigger something in their consciousness that could lead to action. But yeah, I'm at the point where I can't have too much more conversations, because we've just got to be acting and getting things done. And so I don't think that answers your question too much, but I think to to continue as we try to crack this nut, as we make this blueprint, and then to really get it out there to people, but not to spend all our time talking.
Yeah, because that's not it. What when we came up with this proposal, the wealth transfer was not about talking, it was about walking the talk, right? So
I like to say, let's dance the dance, let's
yes,
just
oh, that's dance the dance.
get
Yes,
into dancing it, like,
yeah,
and just
yeah,
make it happen.
yeah. Yeah. So that's it, because we're doing it. You, me, and everyone, we're doing it. And but it's a reality that we don't have this mycelium network popping mushrooms in a very, let's say, interdependent way all over the planet. We don't have that. See, so this not this conversation, this movement here, this what we're talking here, what we're doing here is to crack this up, is to make this happen, is to connect all the mycelium points of this mycelium network throughout the planet. That's it. So if you feel that these guys would be nice to join the trip, right? Because this is a trip to dance with. Please feel free, Hanna, to invite them, right? Put them in the mailing list. They'll be here next week. They'll talk about what they're talking about, right? But they have to understand it's not just another conversation about regenerative movements. It's really something that we want to blueprint it. We want to make this network, this mycelium life-centric network happen really through societies. That's what we're doing here. That's really what we're doing here, right? So Hanna, thanks a lot once more.
Yeah, and thank you to Hugo for doing the mapping of all of this. And
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I know
We
so much.
couldn't thank him a lot more because it's fantastic. He's a
Yeah,
fantastic human being, and all the tools that he's using. Wow,
yeah.
it's it's wonderful. Well, Hannah,
Thank you, everyone. If
yeah,
anybody watches this later.
yeah, they're going to watch. It's going to be nice, Hannah, and let's see. Let's make this ball roll and make this happen even more.
Yeah,
Kiss for your
excellent.
heart. Be well. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, my friend.